and welcome to another episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I am your host, Anna Orr, and today we are talking fashion activism, we are talking sustainability, and we're talking about how you can join the movement and start to change the world around you. I have the co-founder, Andre Wright of Humanize Hoodie joining me today, and we're going to talk about the amazing exhibit that's taking place at the North Regional Library right here in Minneapolis and the documentary that they released not too long ago. This is going to be a wonderful episode. Andre, I am so happy to have you joining me today on this episode of Community Connections. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. It's Friday. Who could feel bad on Fridays? And it's also March 1st. We closed out Black History Month great, and we get to start a whole new month, and spring's upon us.
That's true. Spring has definitely sprung. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, can you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Andre Wright. I always like to start with first and foremost, husband, father, cousin, brother, uncle, son, community member, because that's who I am. And then I'll go into organizer, artist, educator, designer, creative person, fashion production person, author. I mean, I got a bunch of different titles depending on who I'm speaking to and I guess what environment I'm in. I can say business developer too, entrepreneur, all those different things. And so I've had a chance to have a pretty illustrious career as somebody who's coming from Iowa. It allows me to have a different conversation about myself and others that come from this area in regards to the creative arts and, being able to create things that make an impact around the world. So that's me in a nutshell, with not going into too much detail, but being very vague. There's a lot of information about me online and stuff like that. So if there was,
absolutely,
and I'm sure through the interview today, we're going to go into details with some of these things. So.
We definitely are going to unpack all the many hats that you wear, not only in the community, but across this country. Now, you are the co-founder of Humanize Hoodie. Can you talk to us about the nature of, actually just share with us where the name came from? Because I think it's such a catchy name for an advocacy organization and a movement. When I saw it on some information, but with the library, you guys are having a showcase, which we'll get to a little bit later. It really grabbed my attention. I was like, I got to do some homework. I got to figure out what this conversation is about. But for those that are not familiar, can you talk to us about where the name came from?
Yeah. So this project, or this movement, it was a project when we first started it. Mm-hmm. This movement started out with my brother and longtime friends. We've been friends since 1994. Jason Soul, who was a criminal justice professor at Hamline University. And what he wanted to do was have a conversation with corrections officers, supervisors, police, basically people who would get the uniform. And he wanted them to see himself, see a black man in a hoodie, have them get taught by a black man in a hoodie in college campus before they got the gun and badge. And so he made a post online on Facebook, and I've already built a career in fashion in my community, doing a number of fashion shows, supporting the youth or anybody who wanted to be in fashion at the time. And when he made the post, it just resonated with me. And I was in a transition period, and I asked him what his goals were. And in addition to asking him what his goals were, I told him how I felt about him just doing it from an academic lens. And I said, hey, I think there's an opportunity to have a global conversation about humanizing black people in real time when we wear hooded sweatshirts. Hence what happened to Trayvon Martin, how they used the hoodie as an actual exhibit during the trial, and the experiences that we feel, the heightened threat of us wearing hoodies and when we're around people. And so I'm like, this is not a classroom project, just a classroom project, but this is a global issue. And I feel like we can make a lot of impact by partnering together and doing this. And he accepted that and was like, let's do it. And we're now 7 years later, still having the same conversation. And I feel like the conversation is an eternal conversation, but it allows us to be humanized in real time when people see us wear this on the sweatshirts and prompt a lot of questions about what is human and how do we humanize ourselves and how do we have others look at us as human as well. And so that's kind of how it started, and it's evolved from a project to an actual movement. It was started by two guys, not a whole army of people, just two guys who had the ambition, two guys who had the determination, two guys who had the tenacity to take a chance, and two guys that were, in a situation in their life where they feel like they could make a difference. And we stood on those principles, and we still do to this day.
I think echoing your sentiments around the way the world saw us, or people who wore hoodies during the Trayvon Martin case, was really illuminated publicly as that trial went on. You got to hear what your coworkers thought when they see someone in a hoodie. You got to hear what everyday civilians thought. And I feel like the experiences that, should I say the encounters, the way they encountered us, it wasn't, I think, how we saw ourselves. We put on our hoodies, we don't think anything of it.
Yeah, we thinking it's cold outside. We just like anybody else. We not thinking about committing crimes. And so what they've basically done is criminalize the black bodies when they wear these hooded garments, right? And so Jason and myself take you through a whole timeline of the history of the hoodie. It's always had negative connotations. It's always been used. Think about this. If you can go back to remember, He-Man, the Skeletor wore a hoodie, and he was the master of evil. So they were always like classifying hooded sweatshirts. Ku Klux Klan members wore hoods, and they represent hate. So it was always representative of something of a negative connotation. And what we basically done is rewrite the narrative for black people when we wear hoodies, and we're talking about it's professors that's wearing hoodies, it's doctors that's wearing hoodies, it's artists, it's educators, it's all these other folks. And we basically taken our idea in our project, in our movement, and destigmatize this idea that you might think that we're dangerous because we wear these hooded garments.
I think people think this is such a minute issue when they think about how perception around a piece of clothing can change the nature of a situation. They've gone as far, I'd say the powers that be has gone as far as outlawing kids to be able to wear them in some schools or wear them to sports events. As soon as they come on the property, you see kids taking off their hoodies, either removing them fully or dropping their hoods or rolling the collars in. And it's such a polarizing thing to witness because it's like, it's just a garment of clothing. And I think the way you and Jason have kind of set the movement, it's changed it in such a way. There's celebrities, rappers, athletes wearing these hoodies, changing the narrative and starting conversations that I think America's really nervous to foster.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. And I think by us bringing it to the forefront and just talking about the humanizing element of us when we wear them, I think that's been like super impactful, and it's allowed us to open up a number of conversations that we probably typically wouldn't have had a catalyst to have. But since we're talking about the hoodie, and maybe because people don't think fashion as being what I want to say, a thing, because we all have to wear clothes, and fashion not being a venue where it's like an uncomfortable conversation to have. We figured out a way to make it uncomfortable and challenge racist practices and basically systems with this idea that because we wear a hoodie doesn't mean that we any more violent. We doesn't mean that we're any different than anybody. That doesn't mean that we're not human. And we brought that conversation to the forefront, and we're grateful that people have basically taken what we were saying and basically implemented it into their everyday lives in some shape, form, and fashion.
Now, for those that are unfamiliar with the concept of fashion activism, can you kind of unpack that term? When I looked it up, I thought it was really interesting, but I also understood exactly what you were saying.
Absolutely. So, in the process of doing this, Jason and I started to coin phrases and like think about what we were actually doing. It was fashion activism, and fashion activism goes into a number of realms. But when we're talking about fashion activism specifically, is being able to use a garment or an item of clothing as a vehicle for change, to be able to spark a conversation that might open the hearts and minds of people, to have them maybe change the perception about something. And so we've used basically this hooded sweatshirt as a vehicle to have a conversation about humanizing Black and Indigenous people in our bodies, which expands even beyond just the hooded sweatshirt. But because we're talking about fashion activism, the hoodie is like the car, and it allows us to drive a conversation into a mind that challenges them or opens them up or pulls them in a little bit closer to this idea that we're human, regardless if we wear hoodies or regardless of the color of our skin. And so that's how we've been able to really capitalize off of the fashion activism term. In addition to that, let me also add, just because not only are we movement people, but we are people that are educators. And so we started to learn a little bit more about truly what fashion activism is. And we also want to make sure that we're not overproducing items that would actually go back in the landfill and hurt our environment. I feel like there's a aspect of that as well, when we know the petrochemical industry is one of the biggest industries right now and it's destroying all of us. We don't want to be proponents of that. We want to be able to challenge that. So it's a kind of a two-facet thing, right? Where we're talking about the humanizing of actual humans, but then also how do we talk about the environmental issues that we might have? And like Angela Davis said, we can't never have justice, civil justice, if we can't even have environmental justice.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very powerful that you guys are not only promoting the sustainability of culture and of our people, but also of the environment. We have to take care of ourselves and each other and the world around us. I think it's very important. Now, talk to me about your love of graphic design and fashion and how you decided to fuse those two and use that, like you said, as a vessel for your fashion activism and pushing concepts that I think people thought had such powerful historical premise, right? Fighting for our rights, making us humane, all these different things. But you've done it in such a unique way that I think it's tangible for anyone to understand, from young to old.
I think for me, all through school, all through my art classes, everything, I've only been the only Black body in those classes. And all the literature that we've been taught has this very Eurocentric, very non-Black diaspora. Basically, like, we never contributed to anything in the world from a creative standpoint. And somewhat I'm ashamed that I had to go through those experiences. But I'm a self-taught designer. I didn't go to FIT and learn fashion design either. I wanted to set myself apart from other graphic designers because when I was coming out of school, the industry I felt was going to be really muddy. And I needed a way to distinguish myself. And so I got into textiles by way of that, knowing that if I can make myself different, then maybe I could be seen as a designer from this aspect or from this aspect. And so I really just started to invest in myself in learning, but at the same time, I wanted it to be from the lens of what I saw. And so fast forward up to now, I wish I had me when I was in school. Somebody who could tell me how to do some things or show me how to do some things to keep me out of trouble, because my senior year I was houseless, gang affiliated, and headed the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be, but I was talented and I got a scholarship to go to school. But I lost that scholarship because I wasn't diligent. And I wish I had a role model, somebody who could who looked like me, that was into design, that could show me. And that kind of hints to where I'm at now with all my work. And I'm basically saving kids from cops, cages, and court by teaching them this graphic design skill, because I've been able to build a career from this. And I have a preventative model. whether they teach our kids how to play basketball and then they graduate and then they work at a gas station because they don't have the scholarship. I'm giving them a skill that if they did graduate from school, they actually can continue on with their life and make a living for their families. And so now I'm an educator. So I went from being a person who practiced graphic design, done many fashion shows, and I've used it as a catalyst to be able to teach people some of the same things that I've learned. But then also I'm decolonizing the idea that we had no contribution to the graphic design or arts industry by introducing designers from our backgrounds, like Willie Smith, who coined the phrase street culture, or Emory Douglas, who was responsible for the Black Panther Party and all those images, all the great stuff that you saw, all the visuals. And why this is important is because if you think about graphics and media, those who control the media and graphics control people's minds.
That's true.
And guess who don't have any control over that? It's us. We don't get the jobs. We not, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a stat that says we make up 3% of all design disciplines. That's UX, UI, that's website design, that's everything. Meaning there's 97% that we're not even at the table. And so you think about microaggressions. You think about all these images that's been created throughout the years that's hurt indigenous people, hurt Black people, all these symbols. And we haven't even been able to challenge it or even get paid or compensated from it just due to the fact that we've been left out of those conversations. And so my revolution is to train 1,000 kids over the next 10 years to join the design industry. And I'm calling it the power of 1,000. And hopefully those kids then would multiply, and we can say it's the power of 1,000 or 100,000, and then from there we can say it's the power of 1 million. And so that's kind of how I'm really looking at design. That's how I got started. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And I hope that the future and the words that I'm saying in regards to that resonate with the people and understand how just as much as it is to protest, we got to be action oriented these days, and that's one of my actions, to be able to bring something new and bring more designers into the world so we can have those different conversations just like I'm doing.
I think that's very well said. I was reading on the website that empowering Black people to stand up against racial justice is one of the concepts of vision for humanizing my hoodie. Where did that specific vision come from?
Because you think about our people, and I'm gonna talk to you, sister, because you know this and you can agree with this. But like if we talking about empowerment, a lot of times we're looking at these entertainers and people who might have a lot of wealth and money and stuff like that. But what about our doctors and our lawyers and people who actually make communities run? And so what we're talking about empowering people, we're talking about empowering people to just be themselves, empowering people to actually speak up about something when they actually have the opportunity to speak up about something. We're empowering them to make a difference in their community in some kind of way, empowering them to love a person in an unconditional way, empowering them to put power back into somebody else's hand. We're giving them an opportunity to tell a story about themselves through storytelling that maybe has never been told, and a lot of our stories haven't been documented. Mm-hmm. So when we talking about empowerment, we talking about things like that, being able to change the way things have gone through empowering our people, so we have more people like ourselves in leadership positions.
Talk to me
whether
a bit about
corporations, whether that be in corporations, whether that be in schools, whether that be out in the streets, whether that be entrepreneurs throughout the whole diaspora. I don't think we have one specific target market, but it's empowering our people just to do better, to do more, to see value in ourselves. Remember that saying James Brown used to say, "I'm Black and I'm proud." Yeah. Well, this is 2.0 of "I'm Black and I'm proud," and we just doing it in a creative way and giving people a little bit more, I guess, variety and flavor. We just can't sing or dance like James Brown, but we got the same moves.
Dr. Martin Luther King said it takes all kinds. There's a role
Absolutely,
for everyone. So
absolutely,
I believe you're right about that. Now, can you share with the people just a little bit about some of the tools you all use to build power through for racial equity? I saw you guys have house parties, you guys have, and not in the traditional sense, before anybody decides. We just made a James Brown reference, so let me clarify before somebody believes there's a party invitation somewhere in the mail soon. But you all have workshops, you all have fashion shows, you all do educational workshops with anywhere, your house, a church, daycare, an event, anywhere. And then so many other programs that you guys are using to literally change the face of activism, but also to reshape our communities.
Yeah, so we have a number of, me and Jason are very dynamic, I guess, with our backgrounds, mine being in creativity, his being in education. And we have a multifaceted approach of how we want to have these conversations. And so we offer an exhibition that's up there in Minneapolis, because we know that with art, we can have even more of a serious conversation. And everybody has an opinion about some kind of art form or some kind of art piece. And it's allowed us to bring down barriers. So we offer an art exhibit. We have workshops. We normally would do these workshops in the physical space, but when George Floyd got lynched, we decided to do these online because the pandemic started, and it seemed to be really successful. So we have a number of ways that white folks can understand basically how to treat us as better humans and treat us as friends and become an ally of different parts of different movements, meaning like we show you how we've become allies to people from the LGBTQI community, from undocumented workers, from people that's from the disabled community. And then we have actual examples and things that you have to wrestle with through those trainings or workshops. And from there, you become a better person. You have more of a cleaner lens on some of the terminology, some of the things that we deal with. So we've done it like that. We have documentaries, which are movies, and we hold documentary discussions. We give hoodies away to kids. I mean, Jason, I don't know how many hoodies he done gave away up there in Minnesota. And I don't know how many hoodies I done gave away to kids here in Iowa. Well, they're everywhere. Just thousands of hoodies. I could just say thousands. And obviously we have speaking engagements. We have collaborations. I've used Humanize My Hoodie to help black student unions raise money at their clubs. We've leveraged it on licenses. We had deals with Foot Locker. We've been I could keep. We've done it. We got all kinds of stuff we've done. And I guess what I'm saying is that there isn't a rhyme or reason on how we are trying to humanize ourselves. We just using our gifts and our best gifts, and we kind of got a schedule. And if it works in our benefit, we release products and release things that would be enticing to people. In addition to us just selling the normal hooded sweatshirt as it is too. So.
Now, you spoke a little bit about the exhibit that's taking place at North Regional Library right here in Minneapolis. That exhibit is running from February 22nd until March 6th. So there is still some time for people that are interested to get a chance to see the exhibit and to catch up on this amazing information that we're talking about right here. What has the feedback been, if you know at all, Andre, about the exhibit at the library?
Well, we opened it, I think it was February 21st, so I was in Minnesota, and we had a whole discussion. It was a lot of young people there. It was some educators there. Some school administrators were there, and then the general community. And so we had about an hour and a half discussion. The discussion was so good that we didn't even get a chance to go out and look at the art. Because normally what we do with the art exhibits is we take you around for interactive talk, meaning that we ask you to stand by the art piece that resonates with you the most, and it gives you a chance to open up about that particular art piece. And then in proper education form, me and Jason, I wouldn't say dissect, but we analyze that answer, and we give feedback, and we provide guidance with every single image. And so those are usually an hour and a half long, and it's impactful. And this one, we have a number of folks that we know that are our community friends, they organizer activists, and people who are they mean business. Let me just put it that way. And we match those with quotes that come from our ancestors that are really powerful, that resonate with that picture. We got a lot of black people in there smiling. We got a lot of kids. It's very emotional. We've seen people cry during these, and we've been doing this. We started doing the art exhibits our second year of building our movement. So they've been around for a long time, and they just started to resurface, meaning that more people have reached out since we've started doing art exhibits than they did in our second year. And we kind of put it on hiatus because obviously, as I mentioned, we have had a lot going on. But we got two running concurrent, one in Iowa and one up there in Minnesota. The one in Iowa is at Grandview University. And so we're working with a lot of churches, organizations, universities, community organizations, actual corporations have had these. And it just serves as a good discussion item, but also makes your space feel liberated. It feels good to see us up on the artwork and looking all beautiful and all shiny, and then people are actually giving comments. It just feels good to see that. And that's another way of empowering ourselves, is just being able to see ourselves in artwork, or see ourselves in a space like that. That's another way of us empowering our people.
Now, you talked about the exhibit and the conversations around the exhibit, but you guys also showed one of your documentaries there. Can you talk to people about the nature of the documentary for those that are interested?
Absolutely. So the documentary talks a lot about Jason's and my triumphs and trauma. So it goes through about 15 minutes of that. Talks about how we met, how we grew the movement, and then it makes a really cool transition into us, almost kind of like as actors, where the camera was actually on us in first person or second person. Yeah, second person, and it takes you through this whole journey of New York Fashion Week. It was our first time being at New York Fashion Week, and we produced one of the most revolutionary fashion shows you could ever think about, and we documented it. And that film is a timeless film. It'll always be played because our stories is infinite, and it gives people a real glimpse into who we are as people. There's a lot of healthy masculinity showcased throughout the film. There's a lot of us talking about how to eat properly with vegetables. It's a lot of us talking about how much we appreciate each other, so showing brotherly love. A lot of times we don't get a chance to see that. But then also it has these really amazing quotes from our ancestors that you maybe have never even seen or heard of. And we got those placed in a really unique place throughout the film, so you're being inspired at the same time. And everything about this film was produced in-house. So the music is all original. The video and the cuts, Jason and myself had a part of the origination of those. And the story is raw. It's really, really a beautiful piece for 27 minutes. It was done. It was really well done, and I'm very proud of that project, and hence that it still lives on to this day. In fact, our next thing that we're doing is we're celebrating 7 years in September, and what we plan to do is go across the country at various theaters and have these conversations by showing our documentary. And so we're going to pick 10 to 20 theaters to be able to do that over the course of a few months in various places. And hopefully Minnesota is one of them. But Jason lives up there, so I'm sure it will be. And I would love for you to come and meet.
I was just about to say, I hope we're on the list for the tour, because this sounds like a powerful thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure you will be on the VIP list, not just any list, but the VIP list.
I appreciate that, Andre. I do. I appreciate that. Now, it sounds like really beautiful work, and it's been quite a journey for you and Jason both. But there are also elements of this that seem very heavy, to have to keep talking about your own personal traumas, but also the trauma of our people. How do you take care of yourself?
Man, my family help keep me grounded. Because I know the work. I suit up and I lace my boots up every morning knowing that I'm a warrior out here and I represent something real, and I got a lot of people to take care of. And so my therapy is being able to come home to my wife and my three beautiful kids. They keep me sane. If I know I could do that every day, I don't care about what's going on actually in the world, because I got that as my stable. Now, a lot of times when we on these stages, uh, Jason and I look at the stages as somewhat therapy too, because it gives us a chance to release something that maybe we've been holding tight to our chest. But we vulnerable enough as humans to be able to talk to people about our traumas, because it allows people to talk about their traumas. And so we've learned that technique, possibly from going through therapy, because both of us have therapists that we see. We feel that it's hard to work with people if they're not mentally healthy. And so
That's the truth.
we practice going to mental health therapists, and we don't have any stigma around that. We want to talk to people, especially our people, about doing that and seeking therapy. And so that's kind of how we've been. That's how I'm dealing with it. I'm sure Jason might have another answer, but that, when it comes down to it, it's like being able to see my family and knowing my son a senior and hearing all these great things people say about him that keep me sane. I'm like, well, whatever I'm doing it the right way, and I'm doing it for the people. And again, as long as I could go home and see the fam, man, it's whatever.
What keeps you dedicated to this work, Andre?
The opportunity that things might change one day. The fight is always eternal, but maybe I won't see it in my lifetime. But at least I was responsible, or part of the responsibility that sparked the child's brain that might actually change this something for us, And when I think about it, prior to Jason and myself, we had ancestors that did amazing things, and a lot of their stories wasn't documented. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people got a lot of praise, but it was a number of individuals that didn't get none. And so being able to document this story and use it later for the next person that's coming, that's kind of what keeps me going. It keeps me excited. And maybe one day on Earth, while I'm here, something will change, and Jason and I will be responsible for that. So because of those reasons, that keeps me waking up every morning.
I think that's powerful. Let the people know how that they can best stay in contact with you and the work of Humanize My Hoodie as you guys continue to progress into the rest of 2024 and beyond.
You can find us at humanizemyhoodie.com. You can find me personally on LinkedIn. You can just type in Wright House. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook under Humanize My Hoodie. If you want to learn more about some of the work that I'm doing now, you can go to wrighthousefashion.com, and it'll pull up a website, and it has all the information about all our programs and the classes that we have available for graphic designers and fashion designers.
Andre, it has been a pleasure to discuss the work of not only you, but also Jason as well. I salute you both and appreciate your time. And thank you for joining me on this episode of Community Connection.
Likewise. Nothing but love, Anna.